Good evening, peoples. Going to update rec shares. So rec shares, what I'm going to do here is just show you their distributions and then go back and compare all the other funds that have the Tesla, Nvidia, Coin, and Microstrategy underlying funds so you can see how rec shares. Actually, they do pretty well, but they don't win them all, so definitely. And this one is still so beat up, it almost doesn't matter. Okay, guys, so the MicroStrategy or Rex MSII paid 0.703 for a current yield on cost of 22.29. All right. Whoops. This is doing something weird. These are the current ones. I don't know why they went, must have hit a command. Okay, this must be equal to something. So I'll just keep it going like this. So 07.3, 22.29, the Coinbase Rex Fund paid 1085 or 2313. And the Nvidia fund paid 0.2711, which represents yield on cost of 43.92. And then finally, the big winner was TSII, paid 36.05 cents for a yield of 63.7%. All right. So let's jump into these. I had to do quite a bit of work because I used to do all this where I tracked it every day and who won and all that. It's just way too much work. And I think we can just now summarize it. So I had to bring all of the data over. And as you guys remembered, my first set I try to go back and go as far back as I can and compare some of the components. So in this case, I could only compare NVDW since they launched on 2/19. NVIDIA was way back into 2024. And so I'm able to get NVDW, I'm able to get Roundhill, Yield and the underlying, and we can take a look at how they performed. Okay, so I think this tells us a few things, but then I have two newbies that start in April. Well, then this becomes non-compare same time frame. So then I made everybody, because the latest one was 528. I said, okay, let's start everybody on 528 distributions. I call it inception price, but it's really 528 price. Then we can compare apples to apples and everybody. So you still had the same thing from NVII, which has done an excellent job with their NVIDIA fund because they had a very high total return, which you can do in a short time frame, but I made everybody equal to that short time frame. So the only one that stood up to them was Roundhill at 129.04. They're kind of trending up, so they're really pushing rec shares. But rec shares does win. Now let's compare. So again, this really isn't apples to oranges. I mean, apples to apples. It's more like apples to oranges. So let's see how they went about getting there. Well, in the Nvidia fund, or the Nvidia fund, boy, in the Roundhill fund, Nvidia gets their biggest, they're not that much, they're 20 points higher in their annualized dividend. So they have we call it 70 to 50, 70% to 50%, so an easy 20%. Okay. When you look here, though, you get a 33% gain. That's how they're able to keep the 13. So whatever they're doing an excellent job on the NAV growth. Now, this is up and down, I know that Roundhill does a really good job when it is going up. They don't do very well when it's going down. So the more time it's spent going up, but obviously Rex is doing a good job. I think Rex, again, I have to go read them all, um, is doing only half the calls. So that allows for upside to happen and will not give as much dividend yield. So I suspect that is what's happening. So they've got some leverage and they're not writing all the calls. All right, so nice win for Rex here in the Nvidia underlying fund. Um, Granite and Yielmax weren't that far off the board with their Nvidia, um, choice. I almost said options, but funds. 90 on Nvidia and 86. So kind of a tight race. Everybody's doing well because in general, Nvidia as an underlying has done really well in this last period of time. All right. So let's look at the Tesla funds. It gets much different here. So again, we had a whole bunch at two. Everybody was 219 except for the Rex funds. Okay. So when we just look at those guys, this 113 is the outlier because this is, 4 months less or 3.5 months less. So who wins up here? The underlying, we always say that. But other than that, then Roundhill barely beat Curve, 17% to 16% when you go back to 219. And then you had Yieldmax coming in at 14 and a half. Okay. So kind of bunched up together. Well, Rex stands out, but let's make everybody 6-4. Okay, well, we did, and Rex still wins. So the first two categories, Rex is doing very well with their fund, right? So who was second? Well, it was close. Second was the Roundhill, and then a tight, close finish for second, but just 1 percentage point behind was Curve. So nice job, Curve. Curve always has done well in maintaining the NAV. Okay. And you see it here. Although TSII, by only writing a certain percentage of the calls, actually had a 3-point advantage here. And Curve is the least payer. They always are conservative with their monthly options. And so you get stability with Curve, but you can win with Roundhill and really win with Neos or Neos with Rex, guys. Sorry. All right, let's jump into this. This one's kind of boring because I'll be honest, none of them did that well. We only had Misty and MSTR that go back to 219, right? So that's not that relevant. Uh, Misty is worse than MSTR, no real surprise. But now we've got a double leverage. So if we ever get in a total bull market again with MicroStrategy, MST will be a real competitor with their 200% leverage. Okay. IMST is that big payer, right? They pay like crazy, but they're also a big NAV eroder. But in this 5762, but again, these are not like you've got April, May, June, and then February. So let's go down and make them all the same. Okay, so MSII did not win for the first time. As a matter of fact, they didn't take first and they didn't take second. Misty took second, but first place was won by IMST, right? The Bitwise. So the big payer clearly paid the most yield and had a high decline, but so did everybody. I mean, 66, 80 said, you can't stay up when the underlying is just dropping like crazy. Look at some of these 24.51 down to 15, 50 down to 26, all right, 22 down to 11. Look at this 18 down to 6. on MST. That double leverage kills them on the way down. Okay. And this one is another, even worse MSTW. So again, I don't really completely understand this one though. When this has 200% leverage and this has 120, um, so something may have been wrong in my numbers. I don't know. But at the end of the day, IMST won that. All right. So let's go to the last category, guys. So we finally get a roundhill win here. And second place is a distant second, is the Bitwise Icoy. What do? They pay like crazy. Look at that annualized dividend, 184%. Koi is not bad with Roundhill. Now, where Roundhill is really winning is just on the NAV. This Coinbase, as most of you know, is up and down. Look at this. They pulled out a positive here, even with a 154. So we had a couple of Rex wins. We had a Bitwise, what was it? IMST, and then we had Roundhill winning one. So, but good job, Rex. No question about how Coney was really dragging up the rear when you've got a fund that other people are exceeding since 6-4. Now, in some fairness, Koi, the Granite Fund, all of their funds after TSYY have all come out like at 729. So there's nothing, I'm not going to make everybody 729. In the future, it won't be a problem when we get out 8-9 months. I may change these all to 729. But right now it's, 92 to 147 days. But it doesn't change their directional. They're a big payer. They're in third place, right? But and that would have been more had they had that extra 5-6 weeks here. But they clearly wouldn't have won it. All right, guys, that's what I got for Rex. And again, hit me up. Also, guys, I say this on all of my videos. We're really doing well over in Patreon. Once in a while I do some high yield stuff, but but I'm doing it around the commodity super cycle. So I'll show oil, I'll show uranium, right? Silver, gold miners, silver miners. So I really focus on that commodity super cycle. If you haven't seen, we really got some news yesterday. Uranium caught a bid. CCJ, the second largest uranium producer in the world, and soon to be number one, with kind of the one in Kakistan over there is really fallen off. And so CCJ is surging. So there was some big news that the U.S. is putting 80 billion into a Westinghouse CCJ combination to get us kickstarted. Uranium, if you don't know, is the most efficient energy there is, guys. So that I expect big up movements. I did get faked out a little bit. I sold some of mine, and by the way, here's a couple of the ETFs you can look at. I also go into stock selection in my Patreon. But if you look here at these two funds, they had really run up. So a couple of weeks ago, I sold. Yeah, it had topped and come down a little bit, and I sold. And then I had about a 10-point gain to buy back, and it needed to go like another point. That news came out on Westinghouse. Now they're up above where I sold. And that's what happens, guys, in bull markets. I'm not perfect, right? I didn't even tell anybody I sold those. I was waiting to buy them back and then disclose the trade I made and say, I think it's time to get back in here. But now, and that's what happens in a bull market. Gold and silver is going down right now, peoples. Okay. But it kind of bounced. I still think 60, 70% probability we go a little bit lower in gold and silver. Still hanging out there. But if we keep bouncing up, then that may go away and we'll just run past the old highs. But I'm still thinking that we could go see 38, maybe as low as 3,600 on gold, maybe 44, 42 on silver. Right now we're 47. So again, it's not perfect, but I talk all about that in my Patreon. I give people technical analysis on the charts. I tell them what miners I'm buying. So if you want to be part of something that is rapidly growing, okay, I'm talking where the money will be. Sure, there's a few AI stocks that'll do really well over time, but in general, the S&P 500 will underperform. The QQQs will underperform the commodity supercycle stuff. We may outperform as much as 2 to 1 to 3 to 1, right? Gold itself, just over the last 25 years, is outperformed the S&P 500. You guys think nothing of going into the index funds. Well, I don't think you should get a gold income fund and hold it for 25 years, but you could hold it for 4 to 5 years and do very, very well. And the miners will do even better. They're more volatile, but they have leverage to the price of the metal. All right, well, come over to patreon.com/TWC100 and check it out. Thanks, guys. That's what I got for you on Rick Shares. Bye for now.